and you can see all the all right, so I'm gonna go here and open a new window and show you guys a few things I want to try with ChatGPT here. So because I'm still collecting some info, and the reason why I'm choosing ChatGPT is because I found it to be and of course it's actually all right, I'm gonna share my screen here. So of course now it's on capacity. The reason why I wanted to test this website is because a lot of people have been using it in the past few days, and I really liked how you can kind of like create different scenarios for the chatbot and see what it comes up with. Like for example, I asked it if you can like create a conversation between two people, one from the Jewish people and one from the Samaritans, and see what they talk about. And the chatbot actually came up with some pretty interesting conversations. Something about, like, you can guess it had to do with Mount Gerizim and other things. So let me just log in here and show you maybe a few things. So all right, how is everyone doing? I think we can just log in from here. So about the book, there's some kind of like challenges that I'm facing right now, and that is like, how am I gonna start it or end it? That's something that I don't want to start worrying about yet, because I'm collecting a few, articles that I thought about, and then I guess I'll try to decide. But the main idea right now for me is that it's going to be something like following the Samaritan life from the beginning of the year to kind of like the end of it. I guess that will be something really interesting that will cover a lot of what I want to share, I guess, in the book. So might just make sure that everything is going well here. Thing that I don't want to start worrying about yet, because I'm okay. Yeah, I look like I'm live. Cool. Just to make sure. All right. Thank you for joining again, guys. I'm going through some pretty interesting times right now, because I'm kind of having those projects, and one of them is this book and this actually YouTube channel. I think I can use this platform to perhaps share pretty interesting, like, things about the world, about history, and specifically also about my community that I grew up in, the Samaritan community. I think there's a huge interest around the community for different reasons. One of them is because many people around the world believe that it's kind of like it's a part of the ancient Israelites religion, right? That is ignored, I think, by most people around the world are not aware of the community. So so I'm gonna ask this question to begin with the chatbot GPT, and I think we can start with this. So let's say, what happened to the Samaritans, or to the Samaritan community, in the first, or let's say basically 2,000 years ago. The Samaritan community, which originated in the region of Samaria in ancient Israel, has a long and complex history dating back over 2,000 years. During the time of the Babylonian exile, 6th century, we know that there was a Babylonian exile. And then we know that when the Jews returned to the region after the exile, they considered the Samaritans to be a separate and distinct group. I think they meant by when the Jews returned to the region after exile, I think, did they mean the Roman exile here? Interesting to know. Like, remember that this bot is not perfect, not near perfect, of course. So a lot of information that it actually mentioned was not very accurate. Okay, it says here, in the following centuries, the Samaritan community experienced periods of decline and persecution, including massacres by the Byzantines. So we know that the Byzantines were the hardest on the community. Okay, let's ask it a different question. Let's ask it, what does the Samaritan religion or like, what is the Samaritan religion about? Let's ask it that and see what it thinks. The Samaritan religion about. The Samaritan religion is an Abrahamic faith that traces its origins in the ancient kingdom of Israel. The Samaritans consider themselves to be descendants of the northern tribes of Israel, and their religious beliefs and practices are closely tied to the historical and cultural identity. The central text of the Samaritan religion is the Torah, which they believe is the original and unadulterated version of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. Which is true, right? But we have a kind of like they say, that's what we believe. This is the unadulterated version, and unchanged. In a sense, we believe there's 6,000. We don't believe it's known that there's 6,000 small differences between the Samaritan Torah and the Jewish Torah. The core belief of the Samaritan religion includes the belief in one God, and then the belief in Moses. So that's one thing. So we have the belief in one God, the importance of the observing of the commandments in the Torah, and the belief in the coming of the Savior, Messiah, the Samaritans. Well, it kind of like skipped a few things right into the Messiah. Well, we always say that there's 5 main things for the core of the Samaritan religion: the belief in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the belief in the prophet Moses in Mount Gerizim, in the 5 books of Moses, and the the judgment day. We say in ancient Hebrew, Imanuti Bukshema wa Mushi ban Amram Abdak wa Torah Kadusha bar Gerizim Bitter, which means all those 5 pillars. It's the 5th one, the judgment day. So these are the 5 pillars. Overall, the Samaritan religion is a unique and ancient faith that has survived for thousands of years, despite periods of persecution and alright, what is the last word? I think it's like, what does it says here? Let's see. There's a lot of, I guess, pressure on it, but now so this didn't go really to when I asked it here, what happened 2,000 years ago? You can say it didn't really go straight to talk a lot about exactly what happened 2,000 years ago. It mentioned the 6th century. But I'll ask it a question now. Marginalization. Marginalization means... Oh, what happened here? Okay. I guess I have to submit that again. Refers to the process of pushing a particular group or groups to the periphery of society, and excluding them from the mainstream. So they're becoming a minority. This can happen for a variety of reasons, such as the difference in race, ethnicity, religion, social status, language. Okay. Can also have long-lasting and damaging effects on individuals and communities. Wow. Leading to feeling of isolation, hopelessness, and social unrest. Welcome, Sam. Hello, Larry. Hey, everyone. Okay. Let's go and ask it something else. I want to go and see who are the people around the world that kind of wrote things about the Samaritans and researched the Samaritan community, because we all know there's not so much information out there, right? Let's see. Is the lightning okay here, by the way? I think it's okay. All right, so who studied or list, let's say, 10 people that researched, is it researched or the Samaritan community? in the past 200 years. I mean, that's as long as I think. Might be interesting. Here are 10 scholars who have researched the Samaritan community over the past 200 years. First one is Moses Gaster, Romanian British biblical scholar and expert on the Samaritan community and literature. So Moses Gaster apparently wrote about it. That's his photo. So what did he write exactly? It doesn't say here. Julius Abraham. Oh, I think I know Abraham Geiger, something like that. That's how you pronounce it, I think. But I am familiar with a few of his works. I think he's one of those first rabbis that I'm aware of, at least, that agreed and like said that the Samaritans are really part of the Israelites, despite what many or most rabbis even believe today, like them being from the Israelite community. We have, let's say, for example, I'm interested to know more about the first one, Moses Gaster. Can you show some research done by Moses Gaster? Now, I think it remembers, I don't have to tell it about the Samaritans now, right? It remembers that we're talking about the Samaritans. So, Moses Gaster was a Romanian British biblical scholar and expert on the Samaritan community. He conducted extensive research, and then we have those books here. Cool. Okay. The Samaritan Liturgy. And that's in 1903. Gaster provides a comprehensive analysis of the Samaritan liturgical text and their place in the religious traditions of the Samaritan community. He also included a translation of the liturgical text into English. Oh, I have to get this book, guys. Okay. Basically, it's on Amazon also. Although it says here it can't be delivered. Or maybe, yeah. There we go. I'm definitely interested, so this is gonna be definitely on the spot for me to read. Wow. Okay. And it says here, this Grace on Antiquarian book is a facsimile reprint of the original. Did someone read this, by the way? The Samaritan Liturgy? Okay. Definitely on the list. Second one we have is the Chronicle of Jeremiah. This work is a critical edition of the medieval Midrashic text, which Gaster argues was written by a Samaritan author. Okay. The book provides insights into the belief and customs of the Samaritan community in the medieval period. That's also really interesting, and I can only imagine if you can buy this easily or find this easily. Welcome, my man Basil. All right, I have Larry. I would love it if you can send me that, man. Thank you so much. If you can find that. All right, next would be the Samaritan Book of Joshua, which is actually very different than the Jewish version of Joshua, if you don't know. So I'm definitely going to include talking about this in the book. Studies and text in folklore, magic, medieval romance. That's also really interesting. Okay, cool. So this is by one scholar, which is interesting because we have many. And if we can go and find all the works by all of those, then we can collect a lot of information and really, like create something beautiful, I think, about the Samaritan, what people thought about the Samaritans and what history we don't know really what happened in many years, for many years across the 2,500 years. There are years where we really don't have much information of what was, the status of the Samaritan community. So, Yitzhak Ben Zvi, he's known to have written, I think, in 1950 or 1940, around that period, about the Samaritan community. We have David Flusser. I'm definitely not sure about this person. Works of All right. David Flusser was an Israeli biblical scholar and historian of religion who wrote about the Samaritan community and its place in Jewish history. Some of his notable works include Judaism and the origins of Christianity, The Sage in Jewish Society of Late Antiquity. We have Jesus in 1999, the book of the study of life and teaching of Jesus. Doesn't mention yet the Samaritan community, but it did say here that he wrote about the Samaritan community, so maybe we can find something. Good evening, Copter Deal. Welcome. All right, I get it. Okay. Now this is one experiment I really want to try. I think with this, I think this is easier to see for you guys. Now, what would happen if you asked ChatGPT to create a conversation between two people? Like I said, I tried this. I don't remember the exact chat, but it was pretty interesting. Mentioned Mount Gerizim, Jerusalem. What would this AI bot say, and what would it choose from its database that talks about the Samaritans and the Jews, and it has to blend it in a way that creates a conversation. So create a conversation between a Samaritan, let's say between a person from the kingdom of Samaria, because I want to know if it knows all the info and who, would it stereotype the people in the kingdom of Samaria. And is it kingdom, or I think it's different than English and Jewish. I mean Jewish, American and English, but anyway, and the kingdom of Judah. What would it say, do you think? Person of kingdom of Samaria. Greetings, I'm from the kingdom of Samaria. Who are you and where do you come from? I'm the kingdom of Judah. It's a pleasure to meet you. The pleasure is mine. I have heard much about the kingdom of Judah and its people. What brings you to our lands? The kingdom of Judah says, I have come to visit and learn about the kingdom of Samaria. Until now, it's really, it's not mentioning anything. So it's almost like it's just really basic. Okay, now it mentions Mount Horeb. Okay. I think it means Mount Sinai here. So our kingdom is similar in many ways, but there are some differences. For example, which we in the kingdom of Judah believe in the oral tradition of elders in addition to written Torah. So it talks about the oral Torah here, which also the Samaritan community has. That's an interesting difference, but despite our differences, I believe that we can learn from each other and find a common ground in our worship of one true God. That's beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Let us continue this conversation and learn more about each other's belief and cultures. This is one thing, it's, after all, it's pretty new tool, so cool. So there's not many books about the Samaritans on Amazon. That's what I know. If you look about, for example, the history of the Samaritans, you have something called the Bad Samaritans, which is really not connected. The Samaritans, a profile, definitely something I kept seeing, but I never got to read a lot. Let's add that to the cart. You have the Samaritans and the question of Jewish identity. Does it say here $0 on Kindle, or did I read for free? Oh yeah, you need to have a trial. Okay. So I wanted to also share something, guys, probably about the documentary that I filmed. One of my first, actually. If I go here to my channel, and well, you know what? Never mind. We can do that in another day. Let's stick to searching for something else. I'm gonna go. I wanted to make a separate episode of me reacting to the documentary that I filmed, but because this is something that I wanted. There's a few things that some people misunderstood from that documentary, and I think I just wanted to clarify a few things about it. So, but anyways, let's talk about one of the things that I want to include in my book is the Samaritan scrolls around the world. First of all, this is Google, so let's ask ChatGPT, where can I find? Welcome, Amir. Good to hear from you, man. Shalom, Dan. All right. The Samaritan scrolls are a collection of manuscripts that are central to the religious traditions. Today, the majority of the Samaritan scrolls are held in private collections. Nice. So it's already listing me. Wow. Okay. I know, let's say, before I look at the lists, I know that we have in the Library of Leningrad in Russia, Library of Paris in France, Library of, was it in Leningrad in Russia? Yeah. And we also have in New York, NYU. Now it says here the British Library in London, England, the Vatican Library in Rome, the National Library of Israel in Jerusalem, the Library of Russian Academy of Sciences in St. Petersburg, and the Leiden University. Ooh, I didn't know there was in Netherlands. All right. Thank you, Larry. Hello, Ananda. Welcome. All right. So the Library of Russia, of the Russian Academy of Sciences is really interesting. But this one, I really love the Netherlands. And I never knew that it has those scrolls. Can you tell me more about number 5 from this list? Because last time I asked it to tell me more about number 7 and started to tell me number 7 about the, the number 7, So I don't want that. All right. Is a research library that holds a significant collection of manuscripts. The Leiden University, including some of the Samaritan scrolls. The library has a rich history dating back to the 16th century and has one of the largest collections of manuscripts and rare books in the Netherlands. The Samaritan scroll, held at the Leiden University Library, at part of its collection Middle Eastern manuscripts, which includes 25,000 items. Wow. Okay. From various regions and time periods. Library's collection of Samaritan scrolls. Let's see. What is the source? Can you provide a reference for this? I apologize, but as an AI model, I don't have to be able to provide a direct reference. This information is commonly available knowledge. So I think it doesn't have a link to this or anything that kind of proves this directly from a link, but a simple Google search, I guess, might help, right? Still. So let's say it says here 25,000 items, and it says here library, Leiden Library. So if we search for Leiden Library, let's say Samaritan scrolls, just like that. Perhaps this one. Hebrew, Semitic, and Armenian special collections. The Library of Leiden University holds 550 manuscripts. It doesn't say here Samaritan yet, but it says here extensive collection, rare printed books in Hebrew, Aramaic, which makes sense that it might find collection guides, exhibitions. Let's go for search for images. Maybe we can find over there. Abdallah, is there a physical copy of the Shomronim Torah that is in English, translated, and ancient Hebrew text? Interesting. I actually thought about making one once, but I'm not aware of any, actually, that is like... There's only the one that Beni Tzedakah wrote, which has the Samaritan, Torah in English, and next to it is in the other one in the Jewish version of the Torah, and then that kind of like comments here and there. But that's all in English. So, maybe in the future, and I'm not aware of any. So if you do know, tell me, please. Museum of the Bible, but not sure if that's connected to it. That's pretty hard to find, but still interesting, you know. So all right, another question that I had in mind to ask it, and good, you know, that you can save those conversations. Like, for example, here I've been searching, for example, DNA structure summary. A friend of mine, a doctor, asked me to ask it about it, and we have ghee making process. If you know about ghee, it's kind of like a butter making thing. It makes you. Hey, that's on a side. Do you know if you can like create recipes, like Samaritan food recipes? That would be interesting. Does it have any knowledge about that? Like, I do want to touch about the food in the Samaritan, in the book I'm writing. So, Samaritan style hummus. What is that? I'm not aware of what is a Samaritan style hummus, but it looks like it's just a normal kind. So, let's go for one more recipe. I am getting hungry, by the way, of looking at this. It has like chickpeas and olive oil and lemon juice and tahini. Oh boy. I think there's probably a good chance I'm shooting a video again this week or the next week about the Samaritan Shabbat, because I do get asked a lot about how we make Shabbat and why we make Shabbat, and it's definitely my favorite time. So of the week, like the top favorite. So it's getting stuck a little bit, but let's say, sure, here's another traditional Samaritan. It took it time to find something. Chicken. Don't know about that. 4 chicken legs, 1 large onion chopped, 2 cloves garlic, 1 tablespoon tomato paste, 1 teaspoon paprika. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of those ingredients, but I also not aware of all the ingredients. But if you do want to try it out, guys, here you go. I'll confirm if we have something called Samaritan style, but we do have a Samaritan cookbook. If you look for Samaritan, whoops, why did it go here? Samaritan cookbook. Oh, there we go. Samaritan cookbook. Definitely check out this book. I have the actual hardcover, beautiful photos, make you drool. It's really tasty stuff, and it was made by basically Benjamin and also my good friend Ben and Avishai. I'm not aware of Avishai, but yeah, I love the book. Okay, continuing on with ChatGPT is, so if I ask it like, what are the names of Mount Gerizim, or how many names? What are the different names of Mount Gerizim? Sorry. Let's say, I'm not going to even say about the Samaritans, so just say, what is that? Mount Gerizim is a mountain in the West Bank near the city of Nablus that holds religious significance of the Samaritan community. All right, let's see. We have 13. Will it list all of them? Har Gerizim, Jebel is Siri, the names of Mount Siri. I'm not aware of that. Jebel Tur, that's, yeah, I mean, you can say 3 for Har Gerizim only. Okay, I mean, that's the same as the first one. That's not exactly 13, but Mount Gerizim is considered to be a holy site by the Samaritan community, who believe it was chosen location for the Samaritan temple mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. All right, so there's 13 names for Mount Gerizim. Definitely going to do a special video on that only, and what's behind those names. But a few of them are Mount Gerizim is definitely the first one that comes. I mean, that's the most used one, Mount Gerizim. which some people say the actual name of Mount Gerizim, it means the mountain of commandments. We have the mountain, we have the gates of heaven, Shar Ashamim, when Yaakov, our prophet, came to Mount Gerizim. He woke up from a dream and he saw the angels falling up and down on the sky, and he said, this must be the gates of heaven and the house of God. So that's a few names. And of course we have also the name, we have one of the mountains. So that's what it's called, one of the mountains. Echad Ha'arim, Ad Arim. That's one name. That's when Abraham was shown, basically, the Lord asked Abraham to go to one of the mountains. Like, go to one of the mountains that I will show you. Here's an interesting experiment we can try with the bot. What if we asked it, like, choose a random verse in the Torah. Now it knows that the Torah is the 5 books, and it will probably mention it in English, and I'm not sure what translation would it choose, but love to cook from that book. I know, Pinchas, yeah. I love Shabbat food. I think it's just my body loves it too. I feel great after eating. Here's a random verse from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. Deuteronomy 11:13-15. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord. Wow, I love this verse. Okay. To serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So this verse in ancient Hebrew we say, oh no, not that one. In ancient Hebrew, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commands, right, so you love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. I love this verse, it's beautiful. And to give the rain of your land in his due season. So the reason why I'm, by the way, asking it those verses is because kind of like the question, the chapters, I will probably begin with a few, like verses like this written in ancient Hebrew before the actual article begins. I think that will be really interesting. Written in ancient Hebrew, and under it is the translation of that verse in ancient Hebrew. All right, one more. Would love to know more about all the special events in the Torah that Samaritans believed happened in Shechem. For sure, we will definitely talk about that. I can tell you one most important event was that Joseph, the prophet, we're talking about this actually this week. We're reading the parasha of the week, and we learned that Joseph basically was brought down to Egypt. That was like even 2 weeks ago, but we're still talking about Joseph. So he was actually brought down from Shechem, because Shechem, that's where Joseph went to look for his brothers. It was in an area called Dutan, which is really in the Shechem area, and from there we know that he was brought down from Shechem, and then when he died before he died in Egypt, he asked the Israelites, bury me in the Shechem. He wanted to be buried in the Holy Land technically, but he was brought here to Shechem and he was buried here. That's what the Jewish people believe, and also the Samaritan people believe. So he was brought down from Shechem, and then he got back into Shechem, and then that's what happened with many of, like, when the Israelites, for example, they were here for many years. Then they were brought back to Egypt. They went back to Egypt, and then they were brought back again when they did the ceremony where 6 stood on Mount Gerizim and 6 stood on Mount Ebal. So it's like coming back again. That's what it's believed. All right, here's the next verse. Exodus 20:12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Nice. All right. And in Hebrew, does it know to make it in Hebrew? And is it accurate? I wish it could write ancient Hebrew. Awesome. Thank you, Amir. Good to hear from you. Salam, AJR Wild. So it's taking time to kind of, kaved it abecha ve'etimcha leman or alman in ancient Hebrew say yarchon yamecha al hadama asher yivarchecha Adonai Elohecha. Beautiful, and with all the nikuds, right? All right, one more. Here's another random verse from the Torah. All right, "Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but you shall love their neighbor and thyself. I'm the Lord." And in Hebrew, I love this verse also. The thing about, in the community, we grow up learning about the Torah like since the age of 5. And it gets really, you read the Torah every week of your life. So you know the verses really well. All those, even though it's 5 pretty big books, but we know the verses really well. So, and we have this game where so we have this name where we basically say a verse, like me and my friends we would say a verse from the Torah, a random verse, and then the last letter of the verse we had, the next player will have to begin another verse beginning with that last letter from the Torah, and we have to be accurate about it, and then pretty interesting things come up. Lo tikach nafesh v'la tashna et amicha ve'ahavta recha kamocha. Wow, that's definitely the top 3 or 4 for me. You shall love for your brother what you shall love for yourself. So that's definitely one of my favorite verses. Okay. Let's go for one more. Here's another random verse from the Torah. Numbers 6:24-26. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Well, that's also one of the most the blessings of Aaron. This is what my grandfather reads every week. This is probably the top 5 verses in all the Torah when it comes to blessings, and in overall it's one of the most known verses. Beautiful. And of course in Hebrew, not this one in Hebrew, but this one. Yes, Kohen means priest. Number 6 in Hebrew, now I was thinking about it. As children, do you study your history like Jews study writing and prophets? I know you read Marke. Yeah, as children, we actually grow up learning, first of all, about the language. By the age of about 4, even by the age of 8, 9, 10, something like that, we will start reading. Our fathers will start telling us about the stories that happened in the Torah, and slowly, as you grow up, you start hearing those stories from your fathers about what happened in this year from Marke or Baba Rabba or even Moses. Those stories are not necessarily all written. So, okay. All right. Find a verse that starts with the last Hebrew letter in the verse you sent. Do you think it would understand? All right. but I don't think this is Torah, but let's see. What is that? He hath shewed thee, O man, what is good. In Hebrew. Does anyone know this? I think it's book Micah. I'm not aware of that in English, but when your grandfather reads the priestly blessings, does he pronounce the name of Shema? No, he does not pronounce the exact name of, like, Yud Hey Vav Hey. He says Yebarekak Shema Yishmarak, which means Hashem bless you and keep you, like the name Shema, which means, again, the God in Samaritan. So, do the Samaritans believe that they suffer from the curses in Deuteronomy? No, actually, maybe they suffered in the past. In some part of them, they suffered in the past. Like, for example, in Deuteronomy, there is a mentioning of like the shrinking of the nation to a really, really low number, and that's what happened to the Samaritans. They were, some people say, even 2 million, but it goes to say 1 million at least, or a little bit less than 1 million. There's not exact reference to say that, but anyways, the numbers are now actually something like 850, and that's one of the curses you mentioned in the Torah. But like thankfully we don't believe that anymore. It's like we believe that we're increasing and prospering, and life here is amazing, and everyone's economic life and health is great. So we don't believe that we're actually under those curses. Thank you. Are you descended from Levi, the tribe of priests? Yes, I am from the Levi tribe. Correct. Like, for example, my grandfather is the high priest now. He is from the Cohen family, so he can be the high priest. And then one day, if I'm the oldest of all the Cohen family, like him, who knows, I can be the high priest if everything is okay. Bezrat Hashem, it's a beautiful honor. It's a huge honor. But also it comes with some obligations. All right, I'm not sure about this verse, but it did not start the verse with the last letter, which was supposed to be meme, I guess. So, all right, let's try something else. List what happened each century for the Samaritans in the last 20 centuries. One by one, please. You have to sometimes add a smiley so you don't feel like you're too hard on the robot, even though it's robot only. It doesn't have feelings. But here we go. Okay, so it's starting to list. 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century. Oh, you skipped. But it's okay. 1st century CE, the split between the Samaritans and the Jews solidified, and the Samaritans built their own temple on Mount Gerizim. Now, did that happen in the 1st century CE? How long was the 1st century CE ago? Is that like, it's supposed to be 3,000 years ago, something like that. Remind me, what is CE date? I'm really bad in history, guys, sorry. What is CE date is what I wanted to ask. Is it before Christ or something like that? All right, 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire conquered the region, because it doesn't make sense here, by the way, that the Samaritans and the Jews solidified in the 1st century. This is why I'm asking. All right, common, of course. Wow, how can I not know that? The Common Era. Okay. All right, and that's even why they say like AD. I heard the Samaritans are descendants from the Joseph son of Manasseh. Yeah, that's one part is actually one part are from the Joseph tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, and the other one is the Levi tribe, the Kohens. Yeah, so I can't believe that I didn't know that, the Common Era. So again, I'm actually a beginner in history, but this is why it's exciting to learn. There's so many things to learn. That should have said 3 TD BCE. So 3 BCE, you mean, right? before Common Era BCE. Right. All right, here it says in the 3rd to 7th century CE, the Samaritan community experienced periods of religious and cultural suppressions. So it says here from 3rd to 7th. All right, what happened if I ask it about those centuries a little bit more detail? So it says here the Roman Empire conquered the region and the Samaritan temple was destroyed. What is the source of this? I'm gonna go for the source of the second. The information comes from various historical accounts and studies of the Roman Empire and its impact on the region, including the conquest and destruction of the Samaritan temple. Some sources for this information include the works of Josephus, a 1st century Jewish historian who provides an account of the Roman conquest and the destruction of the temple, the writings of various Roman historians, such as Tacitus, who wrote about the events of the Roman Empire in the 1st and 2nd century CE, the study of archaeology and history, the examination of historical texts. Cool. It's important to note that these sources may not always agree on the detail of the events, but they do provide a general understanding of the Roman conquest and the destruction of the Samaritan temple. All right. Oh, look, it was Constantine that started the calendar in 0 AD. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. All right. What about this era? So the Crusaders invaded, and so we're talking about something like 1,600 years ago, something like that, I guess. Source of this. The information comes from historical accounts of crusades, a series of holy wars fought between Christians and Muslims. That's what I expected. In the Near East during the 11th, 12th, and 13th century CE, the Crusaders invaded the region and caused significant harm to the local communities, including the Samaritan community. Chronicles and history records. Okay. So we have those like sources. It tries to provide some sources. So this is something that I want to, research in depth for sure. 117 CE, right? This one. So it's not exactly accurate, you mean, Larry? Biblical DNA. Your name reminds me that I wanted to ask about the Samaritan DNA. Talk more about. An ancient religious group that traces its roots back to the Kingdom of Israel. It has been a field of interest in recent years. Scientists use genetic techniques. All right. It says here that the DNA studies have shown that the community has maintained a high degree of genetic isolation over the centuries, with a distinctive set of genetic markers that distinguish them from other populations in the region. I'm not sure if in the last video I did ask it about that, but yeah, Larry, yeah, I knew what you mean. But yeah, overall, the study of Samaritan DNA provides valuable insight into the history, origins, and genetic relationships of this ancient religious community, and can help to shed light on the complex history and relationships between the different populations in the region. So you see, it kind of gave us like an overview, okay, summary. Can you list 5 research papers about this? Samaritans are genetically Bronze Age Canaanites. Interesting. Okay, Rita. I see what you mean. But do you think it's kind of connected to, like, how would they categorize Samaritans? Maybe like for example, a Canaanite might have been anyone who lived in the whole area of Canaan. The land of Canaan. I'm curious to know more, because you're not the first who says that. It will be interesting to know more. You can easily find our research papers on this topic. Yeah, sure. I'm not going to push you more on that. I want to know about the knowledge of ChatGPT. about the Torah. So if like I wanted to ask Mindy, you're saying about Deuteronomy. So, all right, that was deleted. No problem. Sky, something like that. Okay. The Canaanite culture already had a mixture amongst them in the Bronze Age. How, or let's say list 10 places that the Samaritan community lived in across the last 3,000 years ago. Here is a list of 10 places that the Samaritan community has lived in over the last 3 millennia. The first one is Samaria. The kingdom of Samaria was the original home of the Samaritan people and the region where they lived for several centuries. Jerusalem. This might be surprising for some of you, but actually it's true. Samaritans, I'm not sure it's many Samaritans, but they were actually in Jerusalem. In the Galilee, Shechem, that's the most common one. The Jordan Valley, it's known it was known for its fertile soil. Judea, Mount Gerizim, of course, is the main one. Cyprus, really? Samaritans were in Cyprus. Okay, now I know that they were in Greece, but I didn't hear it. Like, let's ask it why. Iraq, I did hear something about that, but I'm surprised that it didn't mention Syria. So, is it true that Samaritans have Israeli and Palestinian passports? Yes, it is. Mad Monkey. Yes, we actually have. Some of us have 3 passports. So, Mount Gerizim. Okay, I wanted to ask about the 8th point. What is the source for the 8th point you mentioned? The information about the Samaritans living in Cyprus during the Byzantine comes from various historical sources, including written accounts from scholars, historians, and travelers who visited the region at the time. Additionally, there's evidence from archaeology and other sources that suggest the presence of a Samaritan community. It says here that there's archaeology. Halon definitely mean that's more like in the modern times. Yes, copter deal. It's important to note that there is limited information available on this specific aspect of Samaritan history, and more research is needed to better understand the exact details of their time. So I want to know, I want to ask it about what archaeology does it talk about here exactly? Can you talk more about the archaeology? It can help shed light on the presence and activities of the Samaritan community on various occasions throughout history. Some of the ways that archaeologists study the Samaritans include excavations. Now it's just listing how to research it, but would have been interesting to know, what did they find? Did they find, okay, it says here some artifacts, poetry, coins, which brings up another question to my mind now to ask it, and that is, what coin did the Samaritans use, right? Is it going to mention the shekel? Or what kind of coin or currency, right? I mean, I don't know if currency is a modern term or not, but Since I'm Greek, I'd love to hear more about the Samaritans in Greece. Yes, Mad Monkey, it's one of the most known ones. I want to learn more about it too, because I went to Greece and it was one of the most beautiful countries I ever visited, and to know that the Samaritans were living there, you have this kind of belonging to you feel like it's home at some point, because there's a lot of talks. And I think one of the most interesting things about Greece concerning the Samaritans is that it's believed that the Samaritans, a good part of them, were exiled to Greece, and then they were affected by the kind of some kind of the philosophy of the Greek people, right? There's many Greek thinkers, so they were kind of not in a sense that they stopped believing in their religion, but some philosophy of talking about life and God at the same time connected to the Torah. Like some people, like it's known that Marka, one of our favorite and most famous and most loved scholars, sages, Marka, he was a brilliant scholar, and it is believed that he have been affected by the Samaritan, by the Greek culture in some like sort of like philosophy and not sure if it's mysticism, but specifically Greek philosophy, which I'm not like very I don't know a lot about it. I'm still learning, but it is also possible that the Samaritans may have used alternative forms of currency or barter system in their transactions. Here it says it is not well documented. However, it is likely that they used a variety of coins and currencies common in the region where they lived, including those issued by local authorities, as well as those of the larger empires that ruled the area at different times. For example, during the Hellenistic period, the Samaritans may have used coins issued by the Seleucid Empire, while during the Roman Empire, they may have used coins issued by the Roman Empire. It makes sense. I mean, that's what, other nations do. That sounds like Yoel 3:6. What is that exactly, biblical DNA? Do you think the chatbot knows? In these verses, the prophet Joel speaks about the future judgment of God against the nation of their armies who are depicted as gathering to fight against the people of God. Oh, all right. It says here, let the nations be roused, let them advance into the valley of Judaphat, for thou wilt see the judge all the nations of every side. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, the temples are grapes, and the winepress is full of the vats overflow. So great is the wickedness. All right. I didn't read this book, but it's one of the prophets, right? So I'm still learning actually about the prophets and writings. So thank you for sharing that. I'm not sure even what do you mean by is it connected to this, you mean? Or to Marka? Oh, you might mean to Marka. Well, let's see. Were there Samaritans in Greece? Because it did mention a few minutes ago, right? But I want to just go and focus on that for a bit. When I watched some videos regarding the Samaritans, I saw that many of the men wear a cap, and some of the caps are similar to kippah or Muslim cap. What is the purpose, meaning of the usage of the cap? The purpose and the meaning, well, it starts with one thing, that when the priest used to enter the the tabernacle, like the Mishkan, the temple, he was supposed to have this masnefet on his head, right? And this kind of like resembles it today when we go and pray in the synagogue. You have to have this as a kind of like a sign of holiness, and also like respect to the place, right? Almost like the opposite of removing. When you remove your shoes, there's specific things you do. So we're not allowed to enter prayer, or for the priest to be a cantor unless his head is covered. And now we have the masnefet. Looks like this. I think it corrected me incorrectly. I wanted to write masnefet. Oops. I just couldn't write Samaritan priest, and you can see it, but there it is. Yeah, it's my grandfather here. That's my grandfather from mother's side. It's interesting. You see here, you can see a photo of the Good Samaritan, like this talks about the Good Samaritan story of a Samaritan who helped a man who was between life and death. And I've been reading this book about longevity and science and the health. It's called Lifespan. And towards the last few pages, it mentioned that they tried this experiment in the University of Princeton, where they tried to make people go from one location to the other in the campus, and they had a specific time to be there. Only you have to be there in 10 minutes, or you have to be there in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. So they made them be either in a hurry or not. And those people who were in a hurry, they put a man there who was acting like he was in need, to see if those people would stop and help him. Of course, the people who were in a hurry would just even step over him sometimes because they were in a hurry. And then the people who had like 30 minutes to go from one place to the other, like from the campus, they stopped and they helped the man even though he wasn't needing anything. So it's, the point is that there's so many people that use this term around the world, and it's interesting that they don't know what's behind the man. Like, why was he called the Good Samaritan, right? Lifespan, yes, one of my favorite books, by David Sinclair. All right. Wow, what a beautiful book, photo. So I guess they've been writing Samaritan, like the Hebrew books or something. 2 Samaritan priests in Nablus write in longhand in the history of the Samaritan people from the days of Aaron to the present. Oh, wow, beautiful. I'm going to save this one. Here's a bigger version of it. Definitely going to save it. Sure, Benny knows who is those people. He always knows. All right. There is limited information on the presence of the Samaritans in Greece in ancient times. It's known that the Samaritans had a significant diaspora community throughout the ancient world, including in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. The exact extent of their presence in Greece is not well documented, but it's likely that some members of the Samaritan community lived or traveled there. Nevertheless, the main center of Samaritan population and religious activity was in the region of Samaria in ancient Israel. That is actually pretty true. So, all right. Okay, guys, I think this is it for today. Was definitely like a pleasure for me to share those beautiful insights with you, and we're just touching the surface. Sorry, until now. We'll be looking forward for our next maybe live next week, and I do want to like go out there and like film other things in the mountain real soon. So if you have anything that you want to ask about, anything that you want me to kind of like try to take a video of, because I'm planning to go to the top. The archaeological site has a lot of interesting places to talk about and learn about. You have the we want to go and visit my teacher who taught me ancient Hebrew. And basically see that he's one of the last scholars, actually, right, in the community. And also the Samaritan Museum is actually being renovated right now. So many beautiful new things are coming, new paintings are coming. So we're gonna go and I'm gonna go and show you some of the new things that are coming there. And the Samaritan Synagogue and all those other things. Thank you again for watching. Pleasure, as always. Hope you have a blessed week. Stay healthy, and stay, positive. We're lucky to be alive, I guess, in this world where there's many good things. If you're hearing a lot of bad things on the news, don't forget that there's there's a lot of many good things also that are happening in the world. And I don't want to be this person who's going to tell you media is bad or anything. But I think there's many good things that are happening in the world, and we're evolving as a nation, and hopefully, we'll have peace in the world, because the region has been under pretty stressful things where we live. So, all right. Have a beautiful evening or morning wherever you are in this world, and see you soon. Oh, and by the way, I'll be sharing a link for kind of like any donations or anything that you wanna, if you have any If you have any book in mind also that you want me to buy, if you want to gift me the book, I'll be happy. If it's about Samaritans, I'll definitely send you a Torah back, or tahini, you don't know. But I love